Am I the a-hole for firing my stepfather? My dad owned a successful business but has passed away, and I, 25 male, inherited the business. The thing is, my stepfather works for me. My mother had an affair and cheated on my dad with his employee, aka stepdad. My stepfather has now been acting like the boss and trying to get away with things that anyone will get fired for. He wouldn't do his work, and either came late or didn't show up at all, and I'm tired of this crap. Every time I try to talk to him about it, he always brushes me off. I'm tired of this blatant disrespect, and everyone at the company is as well. Well, yesterday, he tried to fire an employee of mine when he was in no position to do so. To be honest, I'm sick of him, and so are the workers. So I handed him a notice of termination personally and told him he had to go. He's mad at me, and so is my mother, and told me she was ashamed I was firing such a loyal employee. I almost laughed at that one. Though it actually would have saved the company losing money from firing him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Bro, I'm surprised your father didn't fire him for sleeping with his wife. My father said that would be unprofessional to fire someone based on personal problems. But how could you have even a crumb of trust for someone that would sleep with your wife? It's gotta be an instant firing, even if the guy was doing him a favor. The father was very professional about it, obviously, and kept personal issues from the way he saw him as an employee. Clearly, he was a fine employee who changed because he thought he should be in charge, or he'd have been fired before. The anger I personally feel reading this is immense. I unfortunately have a less than stellar stepdad myself. And as someone who feels your pain, I am so proud you fired this ridiculous individual. Just because someone is family, which I use super loosely, doesn't mean you keep them around. My mom used to always defend her husband too, until I threatened my mom that she wouldn't see her potential grandkids because I refused to have them interacting with a man who thinks it's 1953. You're not the a-hole. Don't rehire this fool. I never will rehire him. He can get himself a new job. Not the a-hole. He tried to take advantage of you and get a free ride. He committed blatant insubordination, and keeping him on would hurt workplace morale. You warned him, he didn't listen, and now he has to deal with the consequences of his actions. Edit. I will update you guys. And yes, I do have recording of him in my chair acting like the boss with multiple witness employees. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I don't care that I'm being excluded from my adoptive stepsister's child's life and won't be sending a gift? This might get a tiny bit complicated, but I will do my best to explain. I, 22 female, was adopted by my dad when I was 3. My bio father was a bad guy, and my mom and dad married when I was just shy of 2. My dad had a daughter, Sarah, from his late wife. Sarah, 28 female, was 8 when my parents got married, and was still grieving her mom and not open to me or my mom. Sarah's friends with my cousin Jessie, 27 female, and has been since before my parents got married. Jessie is probably the only person on my mom's side of my family that Sarah really talks to. So my parents had my younger siblings Jordan, 14 male, and Ella, 12 female, and Sarah never came around to them either. Once she turned 18, she cut us off and mom, and kept minimal contact with dad. She still talked to Jessie though. About a year and a half ago, Sarah and dad started having more contact, more of a relationship, and it grew. But she tried to still exclude us, which at the time meant just not wanting us in on Zoom calls and stuff. But once stuff opened back up, inviting dad around to see her without us. And so dad told her she couldn't treat the rest of our family this way. She told him she would invite my mom to adult things, but she was not interested in a relationship. They took it as a sign that she might eventually open up to more. But she has kept my mom as still someone only invited to get her dad there. She does not want me or our younger siblings around at all. She has told them I am not her sister, and dad adopting me doesn't change the fact we're not blood. The fact my mom is nothing more to her than some woman her dad married after her mom died. Now she's having a baby, and she's due pretty soon. We weren't invited to the baby shower. And she told my dad that my mom will not be given any title, is not welcome to spend time alone with her child, that he is the only grandparent her child will know from her side. I'm not sure what is going on there, but my parents wanted me to be upset, and to still make an effort to reach out, send a gift. But I told them I don't care, that I won't send anything. They're upset. Said the fact Jessie will be godmother is a sign she would still come around more. They don't see that Jessie to her isn't family like family through the marriage. She's just a good friend. Well, my siblings and I are not family, neither is my mom, and she has made herself very clear in this. They think it's an a-hole thing not to at least try for the baby. I don't think I'm the a-hole, but maybe I could have been more tactful in saying I don't care, because I know they care and they love her, and I know the baby's innocent in all this. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole at all. Clearly, Sarah has a lot of unresolved issues around her mom's death, and things might have been different if she'd had adequate mental help. But that's not your fault, and you're at peace with the situation. I guess they're still wanting to try and play happy families, but again, not your problem. Sarah's made herself loud and clear. They are. I think they see her and my dad's growing relationship as progress that points in the sign of hope/light at the end of the tunnel. But she never loved us, so why would she start now after all these years? Why would she want to try? It's sad. I'll never say it isn't. But this has been how it was my whole life practically. I see no sign of her wanting to change it now. Agree. She's had 20 years to come around, and your parents keep thinking that the next milestone will change anything? They're being delusional, and I don't blame you for putting your foot down over it. Not Dayhull. Sarah's never made an effort. She's made it clear that she doesn't like you. She won't make an effort, and she barely tolerates you around, and then only to have a relationship with her dad. I feel bad for her because it sounds like she could have, or still does, desperately need therapy for issues relating to losing her mother. But that's an explanation, not an excuse, for how she's treating you. I don't see a reason why you would care about someone who for years has said that you mean nothing to them and never will. I have no doubt that she'll reach out quickly when she needs a babysitter or wants gifts, even if you're not invited to birthdays, etc., or any other sort of assistance when she needs it. She had loads of therapy when she was a kid. She was in therapy before my parents even met. I think she's just totally closed off to the idea of her family being anything other than her biological parents. I'm not so sure about that either. I know from my dad she had some money troubles a few months ago and none of us heard anything. She seems very happy to not have me and my siblings around her, and to have my mom around as little as humanly possible. Not Dayhull. Your stepsister says she doesn't view you as family. You believe her. This is probably more upsetting for your dad and mom. It 100% is. I was more upset as a kid, but even then I realized by 8 or 9 that things were not going to change. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking 70-year-old mother out of my house and telling her she needed to leave immediately? My mother, 70-year-old, came to stay with me in December. She lives in another country. I was at the time going through a divorce, and my daughter, 12-year-old, had been really sick, in and out of the hospital, and I was struggling to cope. So she came to offer me support and was only supposed to stay a month. Then further lockdown/flight restrictions were introduced, and she wasn't able to fly home and has been here ever since. She's always been somewhat difficult to get along with, but I've always been very grateful for everything that she has ever done for me, so I do make concessions for her behavior. However, she started interfering in a few of my arguments with my 18-year-old daughter. She did a few things I didn't agree with, and get into a few arguments where my daughter said some out-of-order things, such as, "You used dad and that's why he left you." I would get upset, and my mother would then intervene to tell me to shut up, not say another word, stop mistreating my daughter, etc. My daughter would then jump at that and respond with, "See? Even your own mother is telling you you're abusive." My daughter then left to go stay with her boyfriend, and my mother would call her to tell her not to come home because I was still being impossible. The attitude upset me, because it felt like she was breaking my bond with my daughter, and I asked her to please stop. My mother said she wouldn't because I really was abusive, and she was afraid for my daughter. Please note that I've never laid a hand on my kid. She refused. I was finally able to talk to my daughter on her own, and we sorted stuff out, and she came home. She even apologized for some of the mean comments made. So now everything was good between the two of us. Except now my mother wasn't talking to me because she claimed I was rude when I begged her to stop. I wasn't in the mood to go apologize because I was hurt that she was okay with driving a wedge between my kid and I. Then this past weekend, whilst I was out, she approached my 12-year-old and spent 2 hours telling her how sorry she was for her, that she had to be raised by an abusive parent like me. My mother even claimed my daughter would have been better off being raised by her. When I arrived home, My 12-year-old daughter was crying. I called my sister and asked her to intervene, that it wasn't okay what my mother was doing. My mother denied everything and said my daughter was lying. My sister agreed with my mother that my daughter lied. I don't believe my daughter's lying, nor does my 18-year-old. I had enough and told my mother to pack her bags and book the next flight out, and that I didn't care how many layovers were required. All direct flights are still cancelled. She's my mother, and it really upsets me that I told her to leave. I do feel, though, that my relationship with my daughters matter above all else. Am I the a-hole? Edit 1. What led my 18-year-old to get mad at me and act out was that we were under really strict lockdown restrictions at the time, and she wanted to go out with her friends, and I said no. That it was wrong to break the rules and risk getting fined or thrown in jail. My mother said that me saying no to my daughter was mistreating her. When my daughter replied with comments such as that I had been using dad and that's why he left me, I told my daughter that it was out of line. I then had my mother in the background telling me to shut up and stop being mistreating. When a week later, my daughter took money out of the account we have for her that is to pay for her college, without my knowledge, so that she could buy a new iPhone, my daughter and I got into another argument because I told her it was wrong to spend college money on a new phone. My mother then again called me abusive for getting mad over that. My 18-year-old is generally a good kid, and for the most part, we actually get on very well. These were actually isolated incidents, which could have been resolved rather quickly had it not been for my mother egging my daughter on. Now for the top comments. Not day-hall. Your kids come first, and besides, your mother was there to help. This behavior isn't helpful, so her presence is no longer needed or desired. Not day-hall. Thank you for trying to help in a trying time, but unfortunately, your support is no longer necessary if you believe I am a bad parent. I will work out my relationship with both my children and strive to be a better parent without you present. And if your sister wants to house her mother, she's perfectly welcome to do so. My mother does regularly live with my sister. Or rather, my sister, 32-year-old, still lives with my mother and is financially dependent on her. She manages my mother's diary. She's a psychologist and still sees patients online. Not day-hall. Do you think she was hoping your daughter would ask to live with her instead? I actually do. Not day-hall. Let's assume your daughter lied for a minute. Is that behavior she would do if your toxic mother was there? Sounds like classic boomer, hover parent BS with a modest helping of crazy. You're amazing to prioritize your daughter's safety and well-being. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my mom change my name? So my mother is super into numerology. It's the study for numbers and its coinciding events. She believes in it while I personally don't because it's never been proven to work. She's taken a few classes and is now a certified numerologist. Now, she's making everyone in my family wear random bracelets, wear specific colors and such to balance our chakras and bring in good vibrations. I didn't have a problem with this because it isn't that big a deal. But now she's making me change my name and personality so that it fits her idea of what a good person should be according to numerology. There are specific numbers associated with your name and those numbers in turn affect your personality. She wants me to write this new name multiple times a day and change it on official records, passports, ID cards, etc. And that's too much of a hassle. Being so annoyed and fed up with it, I told her politely that I wouldn't do all this because I don't believe in it. She threw a big fit, saying I was never going to graduate with good grades, get into uni, or get a job because I didn't change my name, and ultimately struggled so much in life that I wasn't going to go anywhere. Obviously, I was very upset when she said my life would be a failure, and so I went to my room and kind of distanced myself from her. She then threw another tantrum saying I never listened to anything she suggests, which is false. I'm Asian, so my mom is very involved in my life, and saying this is going to make my life better. I chose to ignore her, and now she's acting all sad and grumpy, and telling my little brother what a useless and bad sister I am, which made me feel like the a-hole. But am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. As delicately as I can put this, I think your mom has issues that she needs to work out. This is exactly what I thought, but I have no idea how to bring them up without her getting offended and her mood being thrown off. And just be honest and say what you're thinking without being rude. She's clearly not pulling any punches with you. She's being rude as hell. Your mom's being irrational. Not day-hole. Your name is a big thing to you and you are well within your rights to not change your name to one that has good vibes. Hope your mom can soon see she's going overboard, but it might be best to avoid / not engage like you're currently doing for a while. Thank you for the advice. I'm trying not to bring it up at any cost and only talking to her when I need to. Definitely not today, Hull. It's nice that she cares so much and wants you to have a good life, but you obviously don't need to change your name for that to happen. Yes, exactly. Update. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my wife and calling her crazy because she wants me to take a paternity test for my nephew? Original post. My wife and I have been married for 10 years and have been together for 14. We don't have kids. I have a 13-year-old nephew who looks a lot like me. We share some similar facial features. I'm really proud of him, and we've always had a close bond. I've played a father-like role in his life since he was young, especially since his own father is absent, and my sister divorced him a long time ago. Some family members have commented on how much my nephew resembles me, and at first, I thought it was just a nice observation. But for some reason, these comments started making my wife insecure and doubtful. She was questioning why I needed to play such a prominent role in my nephew's life, why my nephew had autism, etc. Her insinuations became uncomfortable and strange. I admit that my sister's dry humor might have contributed to my wife's insecurities. During family gatherings, my sister would joke about how nice it is that her son looks like me, saying she couldn't be happier. It was clearly meant as a joke, but I asked my sister to tone it down because it's affecting my wife. Last night, things escalated when my wife asked if I would take a paternity test to put her mind at ease. That's when I snapped and called her crazy, saying that marrying her was the biggest mistake of my life. I regretted saying it immediately because it wasn't true. My wife is the love of my life. She went quiet and started crying, and I had to console her afterward. Was I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. She thinks you had a baby with your own sister? Not your brother's wife or anything, but your own sister. No, that is crazy. My oldest niece is a miniature version of me. Looks and attitude, lol. I have never once been accused of incest with my brother. OP, your wife is on some other level of insecure. You are not the a-hole at all. She needs therapy. It's genetics, and sometimes a niece or nephew can look just like that aunt or uncle. Like it's crazy to insinuate incest because he looks like his uncle. Does she not understand they are siblings and have similar genetics? Two full-blood siblings share about 50% of their DNA. That means the odds of OP sharing significant features with his nephew are 1 in 4, which not rare. Sorry, but someone accuses me of sleeping with my sibling, I'm gonna say some kind of something to them. It won't be pretty. She doesn't get to cry and acts like she did nothing wrong. Not the a-hole. And love of your life or not, your wife thinks you slept with your sister. How do you come back from that? An accusation of ordinary cheating is bad enough for a marriage and can definitely justify some not-so-nice words. Throw incest into the mix and yeah, OP's wife is definitely in the wrong here. She needs to pull her head out of her behind and apologize, then probably seek therapy. Now for the update. Hey everyone, just a quick update. I've agreed to take the paternity test, but there are some conditions attached. I realize my wife is being paranoid and irrational, but I'm willing to take the test to help ease her fears. Sometimes, fears don't follow any logic. I've had my own irrational worries before. I talked to my sister today, and she was understandably upset with my wife. But after discussing it at length, my sister agreed to the test, provided we set some conditions. Later, I spoke to my wife and told her I was willing to take the test, but there were a few terms. My wife was relieved that I agreed and explained the conditions to her. The first was that she needed to stop making any insinuations or accusations immediately. She agreed right away. The second condition was that there would be no more arguments about me spending time with my sister and nephew.
Over the years, we've had disagreements about why I spend so much time at their house. My wife agreed to this condition, though she took a little time to consider it. The third and final condition was that I would be free to go on vacations with my sister and nephew without my wife coming along. I told her up front that my sister doesn't want her to join us on these trips anymore. My wife hesitated a bit on this one, but she eventually agreed. That's probably my final update. Thanks everyone for the advice. This will clearly resolve everything. I give her 1 month before she claims you lied about the results or it's a false negative. The thing is, the test is going to show they're genetically linked because he is the kid's uncle, and that alone might be enough for her to be convinced he is the father, even when the percentages don't line up. This isn't a mentally stable person he's dealing with. Therapy should have been one of his conditions. I had the same thought. They're biological siblings. The test will come back that he and his nephew are related, and I can imagine OP's wife twisting it to say she was right. Lol, dude, it's not gonna matter what the test says. Your wife has an irrational delusion in her head and will go through whatever mental gymnastics she needs to justify it. The test is not going to help. If anything, it's going to get worse, especially based on the conditions you set. I told my sister this, but if this doesn't work, I'm going to look into divorce. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking my kids back home with me from my parents' house after they violated the one simple rule I gave them? In March 2022, my parents reached out to me because they wanted to meet my daughters, Angela and Julianne, both 9, IVF twins. I agreed on the condition that they would not introduce my kids to my aunt's family. Growing up with my aunt's family was a nightmare. They were incredibly abusive and neglectful when I lived with them. To give you an idea, back in 1997, my aunt took my brother's asthma inhaler and refused to give it back because he wouldn't share his cookies with her daughter. This was a woman in her mid to late 20s doing this to a 7-year-old. I had my lawyer draft a contract outlining my terms. It wasn't legally binding, just symbolic. But it clearly stated that I would fly with my daughters from Seattle to Albuquerque for spring and summer breaks, provided that my aunt's family wouldn't be introduced to them or come near the property under any circumstances. I reserved the right to never bring my kids back if the rule was violated. My mom signed it and I planned a trip. Before leaving, I explained to my daughters who these people were and why I didn't like them. I told them to let me know if they met them. I treat my kids like they can understand things, and I always try to explain situations to them honestly. We made a flight down and arrived at my parents' home. But 2 hours later, the doorbell rang. Guess who it was? My aunt's family, standing around and laughing as if we've always gotten along. I turned to my mom and asked, "Why did you invite them?" Mom, "Well, they're family." Me, "They're your family." Angela and Julianne were going home. Since the girls hadn't unpacked yet, they grabbed their things and I collected my belongings to leave. My mom broke down, begging me not to go, saying things like, "Really? You actually meant it?" And "I can't believe you." Meanwhile, my aunt's family started making judgmental comments, calling me ungrateful and trying to guilt-trip me. If you've ever dealt with abusive people, you know they always resort to the same victim-blaming tactics. After that, I blocked my parents' and aunt's family on all platforms and instructed my kids to do the same. They've complied, but not before asking me for the latest new jeans merch, of course. 2 weeks ago, my brother came over and tried to reason with me. He spoke calmly, asking me to reconsider. I told him I gave them one rule, and they violated it within 2 hours of us being there. It's not just about the rule. It shows they don't respect me. They cared more about my aunt's family than they did about respecting my boundaries, which makes me question how much they really care about my kids if they were willing to break the agreement so quickly. It seems my mom has either forgiven or doesn't care enough about what we endured with those people to respect my boundaries. She seems to think I was bluffing, even though I made my rules clear. Your brother was the one she took the inhaler from, and he's going to bat for them? Jesus, he's in it deep too, huh? Not the a-hole. My brother is actually a very forgiving and loving person. He likes to see the good people and believes that people can change. I agree with him to an extent. Really, the only reason those people aren't messing with him is because he is older and has been overseas with the US military. Your brother is trauma bonded with your family. He is allowing himself to be used to manipulate you and he refuses to see it. He is not forgiving and loving. He is a doormat. I really hate to consider that possibility. I reserve the right to never bring kids back here if you violate this one rule. She signed it and I planned a trip. Really? You actually meant it? That is the weakest reaction ever. Who goes through the trouble of having someone sign an agreement just for the fun of it? Why did she think you went to all that effort? At least she showed her true colors so early in the visit. If she had waited until the end, it could have caused real confusion for your children. They would have had, hopefully, good memories with Grandma, and then struggled to understand why Grandma did something wrong at the end. Instead, she broke the rule almost as soon as you arrived. And your kids could see that you take rule-breaking seriously. It's also a good thing that your aunt stayed true to her usual self, showing that she hasn't really changed, despite what your brother hoped. True change would have started with a sincere apology and a willingness to accept any terms given by the offended party. They just don't take me seriously. They think I'm still a kid in middle school who has childish complaints or something. Next story. Am I the a-hole for cutting off my parents after they pressured me to give up my autistic son for adoption? I, 32 female, am a single mom to my 7-year-old son who is on the autism spectrum. He is everything to me. I've been raising him mostly on my own since my divorce 3 years ago. My ex and I tried to make it work, but the stress of raising a special needs child took a toll, and he walked away. Now it's just me and my son. While it's not always easy, I wouldn't trade him for anything. But my parents don't see it the same way. Ever since my son's diagnosis, they've made comments implying that he is too much for me to handle. At first, it was more subtle, like you need a break or he must be exhausting. But recently, it's gotten worse. They've even suggested I should consider putting him up for adoption because they believe he is too much of a burden. The first time they said that, I was in shock and didn't know how to respond. I love my son with all my heart, and the idea that they see him as a problem that could be fixed through adoption made me sick. I tried to explain how hurtful their words were, but they wouldn't stop bringing it up. Every time we talked, they hinted that I was making things harder for myself by keeping him. They've said things like, "You're still young, you could have another chance at a normal life," as if my son isn't already my entire world. Things came to a head a couple of weeks ago when they actually sat me down and said they'd done research on homes for special needs kids, suggesting he could get better somewhere else. They've even said it would be better for everyone if I gave him up. I was absolutely furious. I told them they were cruel and heartless, and if they couldn't accept my son as part of our family, then they weren't part of our lives anymore. Since then, I've cut off all contact. My phone's been blowing up with messages from my parents and even other family members telling me I'm overreacting and that they were just trying to help. They're saying I'm being ungrateful and that I should think about how hard it is for them to see me struggling. Some relatives are even suggesting I should forgive them because they're my parents and only want what's best for me. But I can't get past what they said. My son isn't a burden, and he certainly isn't someone to give up just because life with him is more challenging. He's my child, my entire world. Now, I'm questioning myself. Am I being too harsh? Should I give them another chance because they're family? Or am I justified in cutting them off after what they said? Am I the a-hole? You are not the a-hole. Your parents' suggestion to give up your son is unacceptable. Your child's well-being is your priority and your right to defend him. Appreciate your support. I will always stand behind him. Always. As I stated in my first reply, I raised an ASD son and my daughter has 3 sons who are on various levels of the spectrum. I wouldn't trade any one of them for so-called normal boys. If your parents will not accept and love your son, you have no choice but to go no contact. Another Reddit case of time to cut off all these people and move somewhere else. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's fiancé to grow up and stop trying to put her anger and trauma on me? My brother Matt, 30 male, is engaged to Evelyn, 32 female. Matt is our parents' biological son, and I'm 25 female, their adopted daughter. We also have another biological sister and 2 more adopted brothers. Our parents fostered many kids and adopted some of us. I've always known I was adopted, as I was removed from an unsafe environment and didn't have any safe biological relatives. My biological family is small in terms of known members, and none of them are good people. I'm very grateful to have been adopted. I feel lucky to have found a family that embraced the fact that we weren't biologically connected but loved us just the same, without any shame. Each of us who were adopted has our own story. One of my brothers, for example, was orphaned, and his birth parents wanted him to find a family who would love and care for him, which he found with us. Matt's fiancée, Evelyn, was adopted as an infant and has a lot of complicated feelings about it. I understand why she feels this way, especially since her adoptive parents tried to erase her biological background, shamed her for being curious about it, and spoke negatively about her birth family. I don't think that was fair or right. However, Evelyn tends to push her feelings onto other adoptees, assuming we all feel the same as she does. She has made negative comments about my parents, accusing them of robbing 3 children of their rights to their biological family history and identity. She even suggested that I was brainwashed by CPS into believing that I was removed for safety reasons and had no safe biological relatives. For the record, all my known birth relatives have been in and out of prison, and I have verified this. She told me that I'm just traumatized and too afraid to admit that I was denied my real family. I explained to her that I don't feel that way, but she insisted that all adopted kids feel the same, claiming that adoptees are treated as products in the US. I told Matt that I couldn't handle this anymore, and that I would need to see him and Evelyn less if they didn't stop. Despite this, she keeps seeking me out. On Saturday, while she was at my parents' home, she tried to bring it up again. I couldn't stand her talking about my parents that way in their own home, so I snapped. I told her to grow up and accept that people can have different experiences and perspectives, and that only children think everyone should feel the same. I also said that she needed to stop projecting her anger and trauma onto me, just because our experiences are different. Evelyn said I was being spiteful and throwing it in her face. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. What does your brother do while she sits in your parents' home and talks smack about them? Do your parents know? He doesn't say anything in front of us. Our parents know. I didn't know it, but they were aware before too. They feel bad that her experience left her feeling as she does. Your parents are so good. You are not the a-hole. She should really seek therapy. I agree. I think that's why she's so explosive about the topic. She needs to talk about it because her feelings are so complicated and make her miserable with her anger and grief. Not a-hole. In advocacy spaces, there's a few golden rules. Things like, don't talk about us without us, as in don't represent us without letting us talk too. And a big one is, experiences may vary and I cannot talk for you because I haven't walked in your shoes, as in what you've experienced I cannot imagine, because I haven't lived your life. Evelyn is failing on both of those. Probably more. Has she got an adoption fetish? Is that why she's with your brother? How does he feel about all this nonsense? Not her, but the crap she's talking. And how will he reconcile this with having children with her? I think she has become so bitter about the flaws in the adoption system and the bad outcome she got that she can't accept there are people who have benefited from it too. I don't believe adoption is part of the reason she's with him because she found out about some of us being adopted months into their relationship.